welcome. And this is Impact 2023, our continuing conversation where we talk about all different types of topics from current events uh, to what's happening right now to past events. And we talk about it from different perspectives. We talk about whether it's racial, religious, whatever type of point of view that you may have or may want to talk about. That's what we do here. This is our safe space and our place to have intelligent and informational dialogue. And as always, we invite you to type in your questions and your comments into the comment section. Um, we always say that this is a ongoing conversation. So if there's anything that you want to say, please feel free to add it to this conversation. It shouldn't be one-sided. So again, please feel free to add in any kind of comments or questions. And as always, we jump right into it. Before we get into our particular topic, I want to make some acknowledgments to some things that's happened. First off, and we'll talk about it at a later time. First off, one of the things that recently happened is in Florida, right, that we always talk about. They've decided to redefine African American history, and they decided to make some inferences or some references to the fact that many of the slaves benefited from slavery, learning some valuable skills and life skills and things like that. I'll be blunt with it. Some of the racist activities of Florida are still going on. So we may have to address that later on. Also, on another front, there was a black woman who disappeared. And if you've been watching over the course of years, one of the complaints in the black community has been that when black women disappear, they don't get the same coverage that white women do, especially blonde, blue-eyed white women get a lot of coverage when one of them disappears. And so as a result, they're able to, put together a bigger force to go find these women, and usually they have a better success rate. But when black women disappear, they don't get the national coverage. Black and brown women, let me not just say that. They don't get the national coverage, and so they don't get to put together a big force. Well, fortunately, there was a situation where there was a black woman who disappeared, and she got the coverage. Unfortunately, she made it all up. And so on the one side, we kind of took a step forward in the fact that it got national coverage. And it was amazing, and people were shocked and surprised that a disappearance of a black woman got so much coverage. Unfortunately, she made it up, and so that made then 2 steps forward, 2 steps back type situation. So we may need to discuss that. So just want to acknowledge those because I know those are big issues that people may be like, well, why are you not touching on those? Because we're touching on affirmative action today, because we had already decided to do so, and we have a wonderful guest that comes in to talk about it with us. Let me tee it up really quickly, though. A couple of weeks ago, what happened was the Supreme Court reviewed affirmative action. And what they decided was that they were going to knock it down. It was a decision that came through. The conservative judges voted against affirmative action. The liberal judges voted for affirmative action. And they knocked it down with college admissions. Basically saying, and the one male black justice, Clarence Thomas, said that he is aware that there is racial disparity and he's aware that there's these problems. However, the impact isn't there, and no longer is there a need for more affirmative action in college admissions. And so that he's saying he's aware that there is some issues out here when it comes to being black, but yet those issues aren't big enough that we should continue on with affirmative action at the collegiate level. And so that's where we are. So that's our conversation. It's coming in on affirmative action. And so as I bring Reverend Cox in on here, how we doing? All right. And so my initial thing is your thoughts on what many people have set back and said Clarence Thomas's view first off when it comes to affirmative action, which is that even though they acknowledge that we still have some racial issues here, we've made so much strides that we no longer need affirmative action. And for people, and let me clarify real quickly for anybody, affirmative action is the process of when you have admissions or you have jobs or you have anything of making sure that you have a representative, an intentional part of the process to make it more representative of different races. So, what do you think of that thought? Have we come so far as a race, as Black and brown people, that we no longer need affirmative action? Do you agree with what Clarence Thomas was basically saying?
I do not. In fact, I think if Clarence Thomas had to endure some of the experiences that most people have in their lives, he would probably truly have a heartfelt perspective on affirmative action. Also, um, Clarence Thomas really has not been for the people. Clarence Thomas appears to he wanted to please his colleagues more than he would want to please the people. He has great influence, and I would like to see him put his influence in the right place and at the right time, which is now. So, but unfortunately, it was 6-63 a vote against affirmative action. A lot of people don't realize affirmative action it benefits everyone because it levels out the playing field. And right now, they just dismantle the playing field. So, I think they need to regroup and think things over and go through with another vote.
All right, can you still hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right, having a little bit of camera issues here, but if as long as you can hear me, we're going to keep rolling.
All right.
One of the interesting parts of it is that now that affirmative action has been knocked down, they're going after legacy emissions. And so when we're talking about legacy emissions, we're talking about people who their family went to the same school, and now you're getting in because your parents went in, or they're saying that because you were a big giant donor, you gave the school millions of dollars, your grandkids are going to definitely get in. And so those are legacy admissions. And they're saying because affirmative action is now gone, we have to get rid of legacy admissions because they are majority. They said legacy admissions in most schools. Harvard was one that they pulled up. Was around 80% white, and so now they're going to get rid of that because if you can't look at race, then if you can't look at race in your admissions, you then do have to look at race if you have another type of program that is disproportionately benefiting one group or another. So the dominoes are now falling on different issues. And my question to you about that is, do you think there's going to be further pushback against, the Black and brown people because of the fact that now affirmative action is gone and now they're going to start taking away some other stuff that benefits other groups like legacy emissions?
Absolutely. I mean, it's all about power, and I think they're overstepping their legislative powers. I personally, I think we as people, black people, people of color, I think we need to start to just like they did in Florida. You know how they shut it down. I think that needs to be a nationwide event. Um, and so our voices will be heard because right now it's just one-sided.
Yeah. I think you're right. Also, one of the other parts of it is so it's they're okay. Well, college admissions are okay with gender. So if you have an intentional idea that we want to have, you know, 50% females, 50% males, you're allowed to do that in your admissions, and
Right.
they continue to have that. But they took away race. Why do you think they left gender in there? You're still allowed to do that, but you're not allowed to do race. Like, well, is it because that's the thing. There are a lot of people who are saying, well, no, this isn't a racial thing. More so, this is an equity thing. Um, but yet, when you're doing gender, it's okay.
Well, I think that just because they're saying that they're not attacking gender yet, that's going to be the next step. Unfortunately, I just can't believe anything that comes from the top anymore. And I say that without malice. And
Hmm.
my question is also, I mean, what are they going to do? Are they going to say that we're not allowed to be in unions anymore? I mean, this is it's getting ridiculous. It's getting out of hand. Um, the bottom line is people don't care if things are happening, as long as it's not happening to them. And
Mm-hmm.
maybe like I said, we all need to come together and start making some noise. I mean, make our voices heard. Like I said previously, we just really need to make our voices heard.
Yeah, I totally agree, because that was actually one of my next questions was what should we do, and I think you're right there. We got to make our voices heard. I was talking to someone. I was talking to someone in the past week, and it's always the Florida issue. So for people who don't know, I'm not going to Florida. I'm not giving them my money right now just because
Me
they're
neither.
acting cool.
Me neither.
And the person said to me, well, they were like, I get it, but if every time, if I wasn't going to go to any place where they're acting a fool, the person was like, then I wouldn't be able to go anywhere. And I understood that. And it makes sense. My counter was, well, if you were at school and a bully decided to jump in front of you in line and you did nothing, well, what is he going to do the next day and the next day?
Right.
If the bully jumps in front of you on line and you push him, whether he comes back and beats you up or whether he just decides to walk away, no matter what, he's not going to come back the next day and push you again because he knows there's going to be a problem. I need to go somewhere else. So, like, at some point, you got to stand up and say, no, stop, don't. And I already kind of know based on your conversation, but I want to just be clear. Which side do you fall on? Do you sympathize with the fact that, like, all right, if I, what the person said, if I didn't want to go to any place.
I've never been one to join bandwagons.
Uh-huh.
I've always been firm on people doing what's right, and if you're not doing right, then you shouldn't be doing anything at all. That job isn't for you, and that's what the tip of the iceberg is. It sounds like we got the wrong people in the wrong places. Maybe they need to reevaluate their team and execute who needs to be where, and level out the playing field once again. That's mine.
Yeah. We have a comment. It says, I don't know all the details, but what was said was that Clarence Thomas stated that he wanted to dismiss some of the decisions put forth by Thurgood Marshall. And I'll jump in on that a little bit more and say that was one of the things that he championed. He basically said it clear as day that he wanted to reverse a lot of stuff that Thurgood Marshall did. And for people who don't know, Thurgood Marshall was the first and only black male Chief Justice. And so Clarence Thomas' whole thing, and that's why he became a justice, honestly, is because he wanted to reverse what Clarence Thomas did. The Chief Justice Thurgood Marshall did. People like that. People who want to just attack their own group, their own race. And that's what this whole affirmative action thing was for him, was because he ended up getting into Yale Law School because of affirmative action. It is very clear, and he acknowledges it himself. They had an affirmative action program, and they let him know, and everybody knew that the reason you were able to get into the Yale Law School was because of affirmative action. And then, 50 years later, you're knocking it down. People like him who attack our own, why do you think they do that?
Honestly, I can't answer what's going on in their heads, but I just, like I said earlier, I just wish they just think about things before it comes out of their mouth, and just, if we could get them off of the justice, I think we should do so, because we're all stronger together, right?
Mm-hmm.
That being said, once again, I just have to stick to my guns. There's power in numbers. If we all we could just shut this whole thing down if we really wanted to. But the bottom line is getting everybody on the same page, and unfortunately, that's not going to happen.
Yeah. One of the solutions that people have been championing is, all right, look, if it's going to go back to, we're not going to be able to get invited to the party, then we need to start having our own parties. So like we did with HBCUs. So when it comes to college admissions, all right, you're not going to let us into your schools. We have our own. Um, or you're not going to let us be a part of Miss America pageant. We got our own.
That's
You're not
right.
going to let us be on MTV, but we're going to be on BET.
That's right.
Is that something I mean, it's not that we go back to, because all of those things are still in existence, but is that
Absolutely.
something we need to start to put our efforts back towards maybe some of our children? Like, look, man, you need to go to our schools. If they're going to act up,
That's right.
it's time to go back to ours. What do you think about that?
I think you hit the nail on the head. Not only that, I think we should go as far as I think we have several banks, but I think we need more banks, more schools, more hospitals, more policing of our, more, us policing ourselves, and take back what's been, is actually been stripped from us. Because I think if they see that we can do it ourselves, then that'll be a total game changer. I think that they would want to renegotiate the events that's already taken place. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it'll definitely be a renegotiation on that.
Yeah, I think one of the things we all have to be real and acknowledge is that it's not. I don't know if it's true or not. I don't think it's the majority of folk. It's a small group of folk. Not that small. It's a small group of folk that really just got a problem and want to have control. And
Absolutely.
And so I think we got to remember that. And then so not to push back our allies or other people who are on our side. We just got to make sure that we know who those people who are against us are. It's not a big group,
right?
But it's big enough because it's significant enough that they're making changes.
Right.
Yeah, and so like you said, we gotta make some decisions. So I like what you're basically saying. We got to make sure that we got to make some noise, let people know we're not gonna do this. Two, as you pointed out, we got to move some of the people out the way.
That's right.
Whether that's voting or running ourselves or doing whatever. And then three, let's support our stuff.
That's right.
Them HBCUs and them shows, and such. So I'll say this, and then I'll let you respond. I know for me and for family members that we've benefited greatly from affirmative action. One school, my high school, I know that I got into the program. I was the only Black kid, and I know based on some of the things that I saw there, that the reason I was there is because I was through affirmative action, and that benefited me greatly because it was a great education that I was able to get. Do you know of anybody directly who has benefited from affirmative action?
Well, I mean, you know where I go to school at, and I'm not even going to announce that. But I'm confident that that I benefited from affirmative action in order to attend that university, because it's considered one of the top 10, right? So, all right, but yeah, I benefited from it, but nothing's really changed because I have to be careful about what I write on my essays. I have to be careful about how I address other students. I have to be careful on how I address the faculty, and so on and so forth. So, I mean, it's personally, I think that in this particular case for me was a catch-22. So, yeah. And unfortunately, the situation with affirmative action has become a situation with the 22 as well. So, but on another note, I think that as you were saying about the small groups, I think I'm not saying that we personally attack them, but I think that we should actually address these individuals. We need to start calling them out, and we shouldn't wait until it's too late, because like right now, since this decision has been made, it's kind of too late. Yeah. But I think we can fight. I think we may be able to get something better than affirmative action if we just brainstorm it a little bit, because we are vigilant people. Yeah.
That's a good point. And I think that one of the things that we got to remind folk is that, especially like in your situation and my situation, we went in the schools and the programs, and we know that we got in maybe because of affirmative action or some other similar program, but you still got to do the work. Like at the end of the day, ain't nobody giving you a free degree. Nobody's
Right.
passing you along in a program. Even if you got a job, they're not going to just sit here and pay you if you're not doing the work and doing the quality. So you got to step up and do the work. And I think that people don't realize and acknowledge that. It would be one thing if you're bringing in a bunch of folk and they're all failing out or all, getting fired or whatever.
Right.
But we're getting, and it's all it is an opportunity. And once you get that opportunity, you got to do that work. And so just like you've done the work, I did the work. Many other people have done the work. I think we got to remind people that no matter how you get in the door, you're gonna be out of that door if you don't do the work.
Exactly. Exactly. But that also goes back to what I was saying. I mean, what are they going to attack next?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, are we gonna be segregated again? I mean, what's on the agenda? I mean,
Yeah.
inquiring minds really want to know. I mean, it's something to think about, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, because personally, I think we're heading back in the wrong direction as far as the country goes, somewhat. So, I mean,
Yeah.
what's your take on that?
Yeah, I honestly think that as well. We got to do exactly what you said, and which is we have to start to encourage and remind folk that you can't just let stuff happen. And I know that it seems silly to some folk about, all right, you don't want to travel to a particular state, but what needs to be done is it's not about traveling to a state. It's about sending a message that I'm not going to just sit here and let you beat up my folk,
Right.
So I'm not just going to take it. Like I'm going to do something, and I can sacrifice. And that's the one thing that people, and that's the same thing that the person was saying. They basically was saying, if I didn't go to every place that was bad, I wouldn't be able to go anywhere. Well, maybe don't go nowhere, or maybe you need to only go out the country, or just pick something else. But you can't just sit here and let these things happen, because it's not just happening to you. It's happening to you. It's happening to your parents. It's happening to your kids. It's happening to your brother, sister. Like you're letting it happen to everybody by being complacent. And so, yes, I think that things are going to go back unless we remind our friends, family, brothers, and sisters that look, y'all need to stand with all of us, and we need to go ahead and put a stop to it. We need to show them some kind of force. And when I say force, whether it be like the bus boycotts that we used to have. I remember when we used to boycott it when I was young in the 80s. We boycotted Coca-Cola. Like we flexed what power we had. Nowadays, man, shoot, you can't even stop going to Florida. It's 49 other states.
Right.
You can't take one out. So
Right.
I mean, we got to flex what power we have, and it's nothing. It's nothing violent, nothing bad. It's just, hey man, we are one of the strongest economic blocks. You can't have my money.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but yeah, I think you're right. If we don't do anything, it's gonna go way back, way back.
Unfortunately, I mean, from my observation, I mean, we're actually spiraling in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
But it would be good to see some of the youth, because we have to pass the baton to them, and eventually they're going to have to make those big decisions, and it would be great to see that we can come to a reasonable resolution before time runs out. And that's all we got is time. So
Yeah.
that's my perspective.
No, that's good. That's a strong perspective, because that it is. It's our call for action, and so that just means we have to make sure some things that you've said, for anybody else who out here doesn't know. Reverend Cox has been big on like fishing, for example, communicating and getting together with the younger group, younger kids, not even kids, but younger adults, just making sure that we keep the line open between us older and the younger, in order to be able to pass along what we're talking about. Pass along some knowledge, pass along some encouragement, pass along just the idea that you need to be willing to sacrifice, or you need to be willing to stand up for yourself. And I think that's what we got to do. We got to continue to connect with the younger folk. I know we'd be sitting back like, man, I don't got nothing in common with them, and they get on my nerves because all they want to do is tweet and dance. But we got to connect with them and let them know what the deal is.
Right.
We got a comment. The church is the alternative community. Its primary focus should be to promote and to demonstrate the kingdom of God. The word of God tells us we are to be the head and not the tail. Therefore, when the world goes wrong, we stay right. we continue to live out the ways of God and the will of God. It states, if states don't want to teach the truth, the church will continue to teach the truth. And I think that hits on a lot on that Florida situation, and even some other states are trying to do some similar things where they're not going to teach the truth about history, and so we need to stand up and teach the truth. Do you think? And you know, because we're running up on our end of our time. What do you think about church's role? Should we do more schools in order to teach what we need to do? More programs? Just get people in there on Sunday and be able to teach it on Bible study and during the week? Like, what is the church's approach to making sure that we educate our youth?
Oh yeah, I mean, you know, the church is a plays a vital role. I mean, if you're willing to commit, that would be a great forum to learn about our history if they actually make this a nationwide issue, because I believe the church records are deemed as powerful as anything else.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be a great avenue to get out, you know, to teach our youth about Black history, to teach our youth about finances, real estate. I mean, it's a large spectrum. And then in turn, excuse me, I'm looking at my mouth is just. And in turn, I mean, that could be a total game changer on how some of our youth and our young men and women conduct themselves nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
That'll give them a different perspective. Maybe they can get a little bit of, they can see what the struggle that we actually went through, the forefathers went through to get us where we are today. And unfortunately, I think, I don't want to say all churches, but I think some churches aren't willing to take on that task.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I definitely believe the church should be a vital role in that all the way around.
I think you're right. And unfortunately, it's not an easy thing to do. So everybody who wants to take on that task, that's going to be some work, but it's work well done. It's work that we need to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I totally agree. All right. We're hitting up on our time. I appreciate you joining us. This was great. This was great dialogue. And really a good perspective on what we need to do when it comes to our future and affirmative action and other issues. And I think all the comments that came in, and for everyone, as always, we're here every week and on Thursdays as well for Thursday 7 o'clock, and on Sundays for service, same place on YouTube and Facebook. So please join us. Reverend Cox, thank you again.
Yes, sir.
And everyone have a good evening.
Thank you.